Hello YouTube and welcome. Back on the subject of Ranty, bless him. A few days ago I made a video looking at one of Ranty's videos and showing how he had once again provided some lovely evidence that the Earth is indeed roughly spherical and that the curvature calculators predict pretty accurately what we observe when we take photographs and video of objects in the distance. The point of my video was to show that when you look at objects like, for example, this lighthouse that was featured in Ranty's original video, and other buildings, if they're far enough away that they are beyond the horizon, parts of the buildings from the bottom up become obscured by the horizon, exactly as is predicted on a spherical Earth. And the buildings in Ranty's video demonstrated that kind of observation absolutely beautifully, and the proportion of the building that was obscured was in good agreement with what the curvature calculators predict. So that was fantastic. Now Ranty posted a comment on my video. He said I'd fucked up, excuse the French, and he then claimed he was going to make a devastating debunk video that was going to be such fun for him. Well, here's his debunk video. Now he plays part of my video at the beginning, and his debunk video is 30 minutes long, which is almost 30 minutes long, which is quite a long time. I witter on a bit, but yeah. I don't think it needed to be quite so long. Anyway, Ranty tries to make the point that the reason, so he claims I asked why he couldn't see this house. Well, I did ask that, but I also said, why can't you see any of the land on which the house is built? So wait a minute, let's just show those who are coming to this fresh. So here is the image from Ranty's original video. I'm sorry we're quite small here, but let's go full screen with this so we can see it a bit bigger. Okay, so here is the lighthouse tower, and you can't see it in this particular shot, but you can in the video make out a couple of little white specks, which both Ranty and I are quite happy to agree are the chimneys of the house built next to the lighthouse. So it's this chimney. There's another one on the gable end that you can see in Ranty's original video. And you can't see the one in the middle because the lighthouse is in the way. Ranty's original line of sight was from the left to the right here, roughly following the line of this fence as far as I can make out. So Ranty's debunk tries to claim that the house is the same height as these bits of sand dune that surround the lighthouse. Now he's making a totally spurious argument that they are the same height based on evidence that is just dreadful. But that actually doesn't matter. So I'm not going to bother to challenge the argument that he's making. I'm quite happy to accept the argument that he's making for the purposes of this video. He's wrong, but I'll accept what he's saying. So his claim is that there are these dunes here, and his line of sight, given by this dotted line, goes to roughly the roof of the house, allowing him still to see the chimney pots, but not to see anything below that. Okay, I'm happy to go with that. That's fine. So from his line of sight across here, he should see the water, and he should see sand dunes and land, which is sufficiently high to obscure most of the house, the base of the lighthouse tower. Now, what do we know about this land? Well, let's go to Google Earth. On Google Earth, this land, here is the lighthouse buildings, here is the lighthouse tower itself. There's a picture there which shows you that it is indeed the same lighthouse. This all reads at about 9 meters. Sometimes it drops to 8 meters just there, then it goes back up to 9, just on the road round the edge of the lighthouse. So it's all about 9 meters. Now, Ranty's claim, which is not borne out by Google Earth, but Google Earth does smooth things out and average elevations over a bit of a distance. So Google Earth, I wouldn't claim will show every undulation here. Ranty's claim is that along here there must be a sand dune that is some 6 meters tall, on top of the 8 or 9 meters that we already have. So that gives us 14 meters. Total height from here to here, 14 meters above sea level. And we know it was low tide when Ranty took his picture, so we can't claim that sea level was higher because it was high tide. It was lower tide, so it should be lower tide. This height should be greater than 14 meters, but let's stick with 14 meters for now. We know that the focal height of the tower total is 21 meters above mean sea level. This would suggest that we have, if this to this point is about 14 meters, suggests that this is from here to here is roughly 7 meters. And that would seem to make reasonable sense. The tower itself, from a sales brochure, we know that there are 91 steps from the ground to the light level on in the lighthouse. And now, assuming a rise of somewhere around maybe 10 to 12 centimeters per step, 91. Well, let's do the sum properly on a calculator. So if we have 91 steps at, sorry, I'm tapping things I shouldn't, 91 times 12, that gives us a total height of 11 meters of the tower itself, which it's not a particularly tall lighthouse, as you can see from the fact the building's next to it. So that sounds about right. 11, perhaps 12 meters if they were 15 meters. So if we've got a total height of the tower as the height to here is 14 meters. The total height is 21 meters. That makes that 7 meters, which if total height is 11 meters, makes that about 4 meters, which to me looks about right. Maybe 5 meters, but that looks about right. So we can further confirm this by looking at the height of the house. If we have a 2.5 meter elevation to the first floor ceiling, a 2.5 meter elevation to the second floor ceiling, which is in the roof, and then maybe a meter or so, this is about 6 meters or so, 5 or 6 meters. And that would seem to fit reasonably well. Obviously, without being there and taking precise measurements, we can't be 100% sure, but we know we're in the right ballpark. So Ranty's claim is that the tower that we can see in his video here, what we are seeing is 7 meters, maybe 8 meters from this point to this point. And then from the last white pixel here to the first pixel of the sea, Ranty is claiming that that is at least 14 meters of sand dune. So this height is 14 meters, and this height from the base of the white to the focal height of the tower is 6, 7, maybe 8 meters at most. How does that work, Ranty? I have no problem with you making such a claim if you can back it up. So how is the light from the sand dune here and the beach, how is that behaving as it travels across the flat plane of the water that you would claim is there? How does it behave so that 14 meters or more becomes squashed into a height on your camera sensor that is maybe a third of the height of something which is about half its size in reality? And why does the sand dune and anything else that's there get compressed or squashed into that tiny little space, whilst the rest of the tower does not? Your explanation would be most welcome. I notice you don't address the other buildings because the other buildings present you exactly the same problem. Yes, we're looking across the land here. I just zoom out a bit, we'll get the line of sight to the other buildings. We're looking across this land and across the water. So the 9 meter or so sandbar, we're looking across the water towards these other buildings, to the land on the other side, and then on to the buildings themselves. None of this is visible. Only the very top tower part of this visible, and a little bit of the roof of this very tall or fairly tall building here is visible, and the same with all the other buildings. Your lovely little diagram, Ranty, does not explain the question that you were asked. The question is, why can't we see any of this? Or if we can see it, why is the bit that we can see squashed into such a tiny, tiny space on your camera sensor, when the area just above it is shown, which is smaller, is shown much larger? Remember, the proportions here are wrong. This from here to the bottom needs to be twice the height of this. And yet in Ranty's real life observation, it's not twice the height, it's 1/3 of the height at best. So Ranty, I look forward to you actually answering the question that you were asked.